Aloha everybody and welcome to part 11 of Pac-Man World. So in the last part we took on the final factory stage and we rescued our son, Pac Jr. Dude, there are more friends to rescue. You have to totally save them. Mondo. Bogus. Gnarly guy. I love 90s lingo. It's the best language, I swear. But now we're taking on the boss of the factory world, and, is that Gutsman? Why are we fighting Gutsman in Pac-Man World? Did Dr. Wily have something to do with this? Did Dr. Wily design Talkman? Dr. Wily, does your evil know no bounds? But honestly, this is the Chrome Keeper. And this is actually one of the easier bosses in the game, and it's like world number 5 of 6. You figured this world should probably have been rearranged with either the space level or the ruins level, because when you try and compare this boss to Anubis Rex or King Galaxian, he just doesn't even hold a candle to those bosses. We go from HMS Windbag, which was pretty easy, to Anubis Rex, which a lot of people dislike, and King Galaxian, which hurts your thumbs if you don't have a turbo controller, you know? And then an amusement park bumper car race, which, you know, you're probably gonna die in quite a bit because of the bottomless pits and whatnot. And now we're fighting Gutsman here, who his entire strategy is he walks in place. He kicks boxes. He walks in place. He kicks boxes. He walks in place, kicks boxes, and that's really all he ever does. And you might think that the more you hit him, the faster he'll get, or the more dangerous the arena will get, and it'll get harder the more you play this, right? No. What you're seeing right now, that's as hard as it's ever going to get. He doesn't kick the boxes faster, the magnets don't seem to spin around any quicker. This is it. So what's happening is, there is a whole bunch of junk above Gutsman's head that is going to drop on his head and knock him out for some reason. I don't know why. And you have to hit the 5 switches in order to make that thing fall on his head. But the thing is, those switches are actually red hot and there is steam coming off of them, so they will burn Pac-Man if he tries to butt bounce them normally. So that's why I keep picking up the metal power-up. Every time Gutsman kicks a wooden box over to you, if you smash it open, you get a metal power-up. As we all know, metal Pac-Man is pretty much invincible. Nothing hurts him. All those boxes he keeps kicking at me, they won't hurt me. Falling into the acid won't hurt me. The other thing about Metal Pac-Man is he actually has a pretty good invulnerability period after his metal form wears off. So if I fall into the acid as Pac-Man, I can actually swim out of it just in time because the invulnerability hasn't worn off yet. I do gain the ability to swim, I am definitely regular Pac-Man again, but Metal Pac-Man's invulnerability stays for just a little bit. You can even get an extra hit on one of those hot steaming platforms, or buttons, in order to take out Chrome Keeper even. So, and there is a little bit of a race element to it where once you hit the first switch, you have a limited amount of time to hit the other 4 switches, and there's a beeping and a countdown that's going to tell you that you gotta hurry up, otherwise all the buttons are gonna come right back up, right? But again, when you're Metal Pac-Man, you're invincible. You're watching out for the magnets because they will grab Pac-Man, and then you gotta constantly push all the buttons in order to get out of it. But I don't believe the magnets hurt you. Once your metal form wears off, you just drop because you're not gonna be magnetized anymore. And other than the boxes when you're normal Pac-Man, and the acid, I guess, there's really nothing that can hurt you. So don't fall into the bottomless pit between you and the Chrome Keeper. Keep going for all those switches, keep activating that metal power-up to keep opening all those boxes, those wooden boxes, to get the metal power-ups, and you'll just keep dropping a whole bunch of bolts on this guy until his head pops off. Gutsman, no! Dr. Wily is weeping in a corner somewhere. We've destroyed his favorite robot master. Again. But that's okay. And also, if you remember in the opening cinematic, Pac Jr. was abducted by a small little robot that grabbed his head and pulled him into his little machine there. And go figure, the boss was a robot. So once again, the opening cinematic foreshadowed what the bosses were going to be. But ladies and gentlemen, we have beaten the funhouse, we have beaten the factory. We are now at the last world in the whole entire game. We have saved every single Pac friend except for our wife, Ms. Pac-Man. And we only have 3 more stages until we go to the final boss of the game. So this final world, as you could probably have expected, it is a graveyard, haunted house, scary kind of location, because after all, our main enemy are ghosts. You know, except for Talkman, and we don't know what he is yet other than a giant mecha Pac-Man, but everyone else is ghosts. So where would ghosts hang out? Naturally, right? Well, of course they'd be in a graveyard, of course they'd be in a spooky place. What other final location in a Pac-Man game would you expect? I was hoping for the retro maze, but just the blue walls and everything. I don't know what kind of building that would be. Was it a disco? I mean, Pac-Man came out in 1980. Maybe it was a big disco he was running around. I don't know. But either way, the final world, it has a lot of skeletons who shoot fire at you. It has a whole bunch of bats that are gigantic. They're constantly in the way when you're trying to jump to other platforms. And if they are above you, they will also drop bombs on you, so you gotta watch out for that. Being a graveyard type level, the ghosts have never been in each level as much as they are here. They show up all the time, and you can always find a power pellet to defeat them, but again, unless you have a power pellet, they are invincible. You can't throw a pack pellet at them, you can't butt bounce them, you can't rev roll into them. The ghosts are impervious to all of your attacks until they turn blue from your power pellet. So you gotta watch out for that. This world also has a whole bunch of coffins. I hope to God there are no corpses in those coffins, because that would be really grim dark if all these platforms that Pac-Man is hopping around on happen to have bodies in them. I don't want to think about that, but either way, you got moving coffins, and you also have the gray coffins. And the gray coffins are kind of important because they fade away as soon as you land on them. Like, the minute you land on the coffin, it'll start shrinking and shrinking, and once it shrinks completely, well, then you don't have a platform, and then you fall to your death over all these bottomless pits that we're coming up to. And there's a lot of puzzles in this particular world where, like, you have to jump from gray coffin to gray coffin. Like, we're actually coming up to one now. I need the Galaxian in order to reach the maze, and you sort of have to time it so that you don't jump off one of the gray coffins until it's just about to fade away, because I need to go back the way I came. And you can technically grab the Galaxian and then fall to your death, and you'll still have the Galaxian when you go back to the checkpoint. But if you don't want to die, if you're trying to conserve your lives, you gotta wait until the very last second to jump off of the gray coffin, because then when you choose to go back to the left, it will spawn in just in time for you to land on it, you know? Here we got our mazes. The only real hazards of this maze is the flamethrower statues. And another thing that's changed about the mazes in the final world is that originally we were just taking on Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde, but now this time around there's actually a green ghost who accompanies them. So now you're actually dodging 5 ghosts, not just 4, making it a little bit more hectic and a little bit harder to dodge everybody, you know? I don't know what the green ghost's name is. I've seen green ghosts in Pac-Man games before this one, too. Anyone played Pac-Mania? Pac-Mania was sort of like the original Pac-Man. It was still a maze arcade game. You still had to grab all the pellets in order to clear the stage and move on. But, like, it had a weird 3D perspective. Like, I think the camera angle was a little bit to the side. It wasn't like a full-blown maze camera. And Pac-Man could actually jump in Pac-Mania. Like, you'd come up to Blinky, and he looks like he's about to grab you, but then you push the A button, and boop! You jumped over him. And that was pretty cool. Until you got to the later levels, where all of a sudden some of the ghosts would jump at you, because after the first stage of Pac-Mania, they started throwing in purple ghosts, green ghosts, and a lot of those ghosts had the ability to jump just as much as you did, so it's something else. Pac-Mania has a fantastic soundtrack. One of the songs that are remixed, or two of the songs that are remixed in Super Smash Bros. Wii U/3DS is from Pac-Mania, so Pac-Mania has a bitchin' soundtrack, if I do say so myself. Good game, good game. It's unlockable in Pac-Man World 2 if you're interested to find it. Or I think there's a whole bunch of Namco, like, bonus collections and stuff too, as well. God knows. They have milked Pac-Man in so many games. There are so many Pac-Man games I've never played, you know. I know there's a Pac-Man Rally, which is like a go-kart game. I know that there's the Championship Edition Pac-Man, which I've actually heard good things about. I actually heard that's a pretty great game. But I've never really played it. Yeah, there's a lot of Pac-Man, that's all I'm saying. Another thing about this particular level that I discovered was that eventually you start coming up to some hills, right? And throughout the entire game, you've been trained by the tutorials and whatnot that rev rolls always get you up those hills. Like even this ramp right here that I'm about to cross. After I... Oh yeah, there's a letter here, I believe. Little careless on my part. Those gray coffins could have faded out on me easily. But either way, like this rev roll up here, you know, you rev roll up the ramp and it takes you far and gets you somewhere you need to go. And like, it always seems like anytime you needed to go uphill that Pac-Man couldn't walk up because he just sort of slides right back down. That would be the time you rev roll. But I learned pretty well that there's actually another alternative to slanted hills, and it really helps with this world when you have to dodge like all these different gravestones and bats that are just sort of flying around and ghosts who are up the hills as well. But basically, you can butt bounce up the hill. Like, you can't walk up it, you'll fall. Like, Pac-Man will just slant and fall over. Like, he just can't seem to climb it with his feet alone. But in this particular world, you can butt bounce up hills, and he'll keep bouncing. It's not like he'll bounce and then start rolling down the hill. No, he'll bounce straight up, just as he does on flat ground. So if you're trying to get up hills in this particular world, believe me, don't rev roll. Rev roll is not helpful. The camera isn't in a good position. There are lots of enemies up these hills that you can easily run into. Oh god. There's a lot of enemies you can roll into that you don't want to touch and stuff, and butt bouncing is ideal. It is very, very, very ideal. So the bats are kind of annoying, because like there's a lot of platform jumping where like you're just hopping from coffin to coffin to coffin, right? And sometimes, you know, I try getting there and I ran into the bat. Oh god. I keep dying. This is not good. Sometimes the bats get in the way of you jumping to your next platform, and it's really hard because you can't really kill them. I can't butt bounce them from where I am, I can't rev roll into them because I'll just roll into the pit, and the pack pellets that you throw always go at a downward angle, so you kind of have to get really close to them in order to throw pellets at them too. The bats are by far the most annoying aspect of the final world. In terms of platforming, I actually don't think these levels are all that bad, especially not when compared to Pac-Man World 2's final level. I actually think the platforming here is pretty decent. I think the Funhouse level is actually a far more challenging kind of set-piece thing. Like, there's no spinning dials, there's no timing it, so you have to dodge hammers on conveyor belts, there's no insular tubes where you're trying to dodge all the red burning platforms or anything. I actually find this place pretty fine. It's just the only thing that's really a big problem are the gray coffins, because they disappear as soon as you land on them, but there's no huge set piece where you're just going from gray coffin to gray coffin to gray coffin. Like, I jumped over 3 there, but there's not like a million. Again, do not rev roll up here, just butt bounce. You can't walk up it, but butt bouncing will make things so much easier. You don't run into bats, you don't run into ghosts. It is just a so much easier time, if I do say so myself. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up to the end of Pac-Man World. We are in the final world of the game. This is the final world. There's no bonus worlds. There's no, Once we beat these 3 levels, all we have to do is take on the final boss, and the game will be over. In fact, I can tell you that the final part of this playthrough will be Part 13, unless you count me playing Classic Mode, which is the original Pac-Man. But I kind of am going to consider that video Let's Play Pac-Man. So, it's its own Let's Play by itself, that one video. Why not? I wonder if that was play-tested that way. I wonder if they actually intended for you to butt bounce, because I feel like that's supposed to be rev roll just because of how easy the extra lives and stuff are, you know? Like, it's so easy to run into ghosts if you rev roll, but if you butt bounce, you can dodge them no problem. I truly wonder what the developers were thinking. Yes, yes I do. You don't really need any huge timing when you're butt bouncing either. Like, as soon as you're in the air, like, at the highest point of being in the air, you can push X and Pac-Man will just immediately plummet down to wherever he is. So it's not like Donkey Kong Country Returns or something where you have to push the button just as you land on the ground. Nah, it's pretty simple. If Pac-Man's in the air, just push X and he'll go right down, you know? Butt bouncing's pretty fun. It's fun to butt bounce as Pac-Man. And this is the final bonus stage we're ever going to do, ladies and gentlemen. Since the gray coffins disappear, why not throw a whole bunch of them here, you know? You got a pathway of fruit that go in one particular direction, you have to get all the fruit, and then you have to go all the way back and hit another switch to make the next line of fruit pop out. And, you can't hit all 4 switches. Like, the other switches will go down until you collect all the fruit. So I wish you could get all 4 of them to just pop out at once. That'd make the bonus stage go by so much quicker. But, yeah, again, you're just jumping back and forth, back and forth. Again, always jump just as the coffin is disappearing, because then you have a lot bigger of a gap, you know? You'll always be able to jump in times that when the coffin respawns, because they respawn pretty quickly. And, it's just a timing thing, you know? Don't jump too early, don't jump too late, because if you jump too late, you'll fall. And I just fell. But that's the final bonus stage, ladies and gentlemen, and, that was the first of the last 3 levels in the whole entire game. And I wonder if I hit the cap here. Do I hit the cap? Yes, I do! And I don't mean cap as in that's the last amount of lives you can get. You can actually get like 101, 102. What I meant was, it actually goes past 99. Some platformers, they always limit how many lives you can get. Like, you'll get to 99, then it'll stop you, you know? Pac-Man World is not like that. Once you go to 100, you can still keep collecting even more lives. Because you're gonna need them. We're gonna see the next 2 levels in Part 12.